Thank you, Dawn, for asking me to come out and have a chat with you tonight. When I saw Dawn send me this email, and the title of it is "It Can't Be Done," and I just thought, oh my God, if I had a penny for every time I was told it couldn't be done, I'd be far richer than I am now. But, which is not. I was approaching 40, and I remember I was after my third child, and I was on my maternity leave, and I said to my husband, Brian, do you know, will I set up my business? Will I ever do it? And he said, Veronica, will you stop talking about it and just do it? So I was like, all right, thanks for that, do you know. But actually, that's what I needed. I needed that kind of push. And I said, you know what? I can go back to work, and I was a sales manager for a big dairy. Or you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to take the hit, and I'm going to give it a year, and I'm going to do something. And if it's going to fail, let it fail fast. And then I'll just go back. At least I'll have done it. So at the time, I did food business in college. I did the Ballymaloe course. I taught cookery. And I was one of these inherently, and I still am, like I have my veggie juice in the morning, and we don't eat anything unhealthy. But I had a problem. I had a 2-year-old girl, and I have a GP of a sister who didn't have any children at the time. And she said to me, Veronica, your Amy's got a bit of a high BMI, I think. And I was like, sorry? What did you just say to me? And she said, well, she's a bit chubby, isn't she? And I said, sorry now, she's just, you know, like she's got, but you need to have a healthy body. But I was a bit Jeannie Mac. So I became very careful with my Amy, and we spent a lot of time down in Barleycove Beach in the summer, and you know, you'd be chatting to your friends, you wouldn't be looking at everything that your daughter does, let's say. But Genevieve, a friend of mine, pushes me and she goes, check out Amy. And there Amy was in the river in Barleycove with a bag of potatoes in her hand in the river, and I was like, sweet, divine mother, what am I going to do with this girl? So I pulled her out of the river. She was nearly drowning. It's like, and there she turned to me into this stinky breath, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And Genevieve said, she's doing this every day, actually, Veronica. She goes around to picnic baskets every day. So I said, oh my God. So the next day, we're going to the beach. It's not a sunny day, but it doesn't matter. You're going to the beach anyway. And I go down to the Spar in Skull, and I'm like, okay, I'll go down to this section and buy something. And I was looking around, and I was like, there's actually nothing here that I think I want to actually put in my picnic basket. There was like the potatoes, walkers, honky-doors. I said, shag that, I'll go across to the health food shop. So I went across the health food shop, and it's like going from conventional to like, oh my God. I was like, okay, lentil crisps, I don't know about this. And there was a selection of raw kale crisps, and I bought a load of them, and I went to the beach anyway, and I was dead proud of myself. Myself and Jenny were the only ones that ate those crisps. And I was like, oh God. So I was actually, I was developing a pate at the time, and I'd got funding from Enterprise Ireland. And I got my lady that was good for giving me the data. I said, will you ever give me the figures there for crisps? Like, how much are we spending on crisps? And I actually, when I got the information back, I was like, this could not be correct. Ireland as a nation, we're spending 1.4 billion a year on snacks. And I just said, sweet divine. We're actually spending more on snacks nearly than cheese. Do you know what I mean? It was crazy. And then within that category, there's very little there that I would say I'm happy with. So I said, even if I go for a section of it, just a couple of percent, that'll be good. And I'll have done my bit. At least my kids and people that are like me can buy stuff that they like. So that's what set me on the voyage. And then that's when the fun started. I went around to Mr. Ray Coyle, I went around to the mall, and I said, will you make me a crisp that, like I'm a chef by trade, I make chips at home, just chop it up, bake it in the oven, and don't use any gluten and blah, blah. And the answer was no. Unless you can give me volume figures, I'm not going to do any project like that. So I was like, listen, thanks for that. And I kept going. And then I started going around to the trade fairs in Europe. And eventually I found my man. So then I had to convince people to give me money. And I met Enterprise Ireland, I met the whole lot of them, and they said no. But the bank managers said yes. So a lot of people at the time said, do you know, you'll never get money from the bank, go to Enterprise Ireland, blah, blah, blah. But it was actually the bank that helped me out. So that was the start of it. My first customer, distributor, said he'd pay me up front for the stuff because I asked him. I told him, listen, I actually don't have much money here, but if you pay me up front, I'll give you a good deal and blah, blah. And he did. So you just have to ask. And you'll get things like, he kind of looked at me like you're a cheeky, but it worked. So that was the first step. I went to a Celiac Society meeting just when the bags came out. And I was just going to the health food stores because I wanted to make sure the bags wouldn't fall apart, or, I was a bit nervous about it. And this lady in the front row said, where can I buy your crisps? And I said, oh, you can get them in Key Co-op. It's in, Ballincollig. She said, I'm not going to go to Key Co-op. I said, Jeannie Mac, that's where they're for sale. She said, I want to find them in Super Value. And I said, well, I'm not in Super Value. And she said, well, why aren't you? And I was like, I haven't gone to Super Value asking. So I went knocking on Super Value door, and Super Value told me, sorry, love, but you have to wait 9 months till the next listing window. And I was like, sorry? So I said, fine. And what I did then is I found a way to get into Super Value with the back door. I suppose that's the kind of the theme here. Like, if you said no, there's always a way around it. And the back door was going direct with a distributor to these Super Values. So what I did then is I went knocking on. When I found out Super Value's listing window only happened once a goddamn year, I made sure I was knocking on the others. So I knocked on Dunnes Stores, they let me in. I knocked on Tesco, who were supposedly the worst guys in the world. They couldn't have been nicer to me. The whole lot of them, I kept knocking. Now I was told no for a couple of times, but more often than not I was told yes. So then I got a good team around me now. Like my husband, who was working full time, but he was an accountant, but he's great for nighttime stuff. And well, you know what I mean. Well, everybody needs that too. But what was it? How do I continue here? Then a friend of mine, Ronan, excellent. You need good advisors. You'll get people will tell you. People will always give you their advice, but you need to find out. You need to look hard at the person giving you the advice and find out. I'm not going to take any notice of him, but I'll take notice of him, and be prepared to ring that person up. So anyway, Ronan rings me one day and he said, Veronica, are you interested in going to the UK? And I said, oh, I suppose, that's where the real market is. He said, if you are, you want to go to the IFE exhibition. So I said, okay. So I rang Board Bia and I said, listen, what's the chance you'd help me out here? I'm thinking of exporting to the UK. And she said, oh, no, you're far too, you haven't been in business long enough. And I said, well, Jesus, all I do is I sell crisps. There's nothing terribly complicated about crisps. So anyway, she said no. So I said, fine. And that's probably fine. Thanks very much. And we went to the UK. My accountant at the time, Helen, a friend of mine as well, nearly died when I said we'd do it, but we begged, borrowed and steal and got to the UK. We actually came 10th at that exhibition. And from that then we got contracts to Harvey Nicks, Tesco UK, and lots more accounts. Where do we go from there? The company is growing, and we go to the UK, and it's easier said than done. You need to invest in marketing, promotion, spend, feet on the ground. So at that stage I was told you'll need to get investors. So about the year before, I had actually watched Aaron Capel, the Mr. Saffron guy, standing up and doing a pitch somewhere, and I thought, oh my God, sweet divine, I could never do that. Literally a year later, there I am selling my soul to investors, and it worked. So I got the money that was needed to go to the UK, and we're now for sale in coming up to 300 Tesco stores in the UK. A lot of the health food stores. We're in food service now here and in Ireland, and we've a very good team around us. Going back to the original reason why I think Kidon asked me here was, you know, you hear all the time you can't do it, or, you know, you won't have enough money or whatever. But if you actually stop and decide yourself that you really want to do something, for me, I inherently wanted to set up my own business. I inherently wanted to produce snacks that are healthy, because you can do it. You really just have to decide yourself that you want to do it. And when you know that that's what you want to do, you will find the people, you'll find the money, you'll find the resources to get you there. And don't be afraid. What's the worst thing that can happen? The person will say no. What's the worst thing that can happen is you'll fail, but you'll have learned an awful lot on the way. And life is short, so make the most of it. That's my message to you tonight. And have fun. You know, have fun. We have great fun. You know, like, I know sometimes it's like, God, the shit will hit the fan, but you know, at the end of the day, it's only crisps. If we don't make Tesco's order, it's not the end of the world. It's not kidneys or livers or something like that we're shipping. You know, and we got money from Enterprise Ireland. I'll never forget, like, God almighty, I nearly went grey overnight. And like 2 weeks before the close of the deal, my solicitor rang me up, and Gillian, and she said, Veronica, there's a precondition in this, it says you have to have a fully equipped research kitchen. I was like, I never heard of that. And there was a close date, 2 weeks per August, in the middle of summer, like. And I said, Jesus, what'll I do? And I rang Enterprise Ireland. She's feckin' on holidays. And so I rang Julie Cinnamon, the head of Enterprise Ireland. And I'd seen her speak during the year, and she had said, you know, she's going to be helping out entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And I said, well, you need to help me out here. My deal is going to finish if you don't help me out. And fair dues, she helped me out. You just have to be prepared to make the calls. And I had a situation recently, Tesco UK, everybody knows, is up in a bloody heap. And the guy that had originally my buyer, he was one of the lads on fraud leave. Great. So the new buyer, this Polish guy, rings me up and he says, I want to meet you and blah, blah, you know, who are you? And so I went over to the UK, that's fine. And I got told you have 6 months to prove yourself or you're out the door. In a polite, nice way, but basically that's the deal. So then more crap happens to Tesco, and I get told 2.5 months later, come across for another meeting. So I come across, and the Polish guy, Slav, doesn't even turn up for the meeting. Nice one. I knew things weren't good. The Indian guy isn't even looking at me, tuss off his... So basically he says, there's lots of changes, blah, blah, but you're out the door. So I said, I'm not out the door. I have a contract. Well, I don't have a contract, I have a bloody email, like, you know. So anyway, I knew there was no point in talking to this guy, but I rectified a situation where he gave me the lead into the girl that makes the private label children's products, which I also make. So you have to try and rectify something out of the embers here, so that was fine. But I went back and I hadn't said anything to the investors now about this meeting going on, like, sweet divine, what am I going to do? So you need to have a space somewhere where you just do your thinking or whatever. To me, it's my front room or the car. So I rang the first buyer that I dealt with that was out in fraud leave. I had his mobile number and I rang him, and he answered the phone. And I told him, I told William, and he said, that doesn't seem very fair. And I said, no, it isn't fair at all. So he said, that's fine. He said, write to this person. This person was on the board of directors of Tesco UK, and he was head of supplier procurement. So I got my husband, who got an A in his English, to write a beautiful email, and he wrote it. I wrote it to this, basically outlining that we had been given 6 months to perform. I was performing as I was. You have to hit a rate of sale figure. I had hit it. What was the deal? So your man rings me back in 20 minutes after receiving the email, which is unusual to get quick responses. He says, I'll be looking into this. And very, very nice and posh and, you know, real English guy. And I was like, cool. but still wasn't sure. It could toss anyway. Within the week, I got a phone call. I got an email back from Slav, the Polish guy. We're friendly out. Deeply apologetic for what had happened. It should never have happened, and he's very sorry. And Slav is now gone, actually. He's gone, he's got the bullet, and we're laughing. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, toss a coin, this stuff happens all the time, and you just have to live with it. You know, that's life. You know, you have to just deal with what comes up, but we'll keep rocking. That's all I can say. So, does that mean time's up? Yeah.